All right, everybody. Thank you for sticking on. I know that we were supposed to do this a few weeks ago, but of course, life happens, and
Yeah,
we will
that was my
finally,
fault.
no problem, man. We'll finally getting around to talking about Ranger's Apprentice 2, The Burning Bridge. This is second in the Ranger's Apprentice series, which kind of has, I would say, 11 or 10 books, possibly 12. I've seen some mark Royal Ranger, which is the first in the new series, as 12. But yeah, this is book two. I'm already on book 12, by the way.
Oh wow.
Actually, I finished book 12, so I'm on book 13.
Oh okay.
I kind of paused on it to start back on Malazan again. And man, Malazan is tricky. Um,
Yeah.
I basically have to read a chapter synopsis after finishing each chapter just to kind of figure out what was going on in some respects. Because they do
Man,
have
I
a whole
think I've
dynamic in
I've
that
taken
series.
the advice of people who've already read the series and just not bothered putting that much effort into figure out what's going on, other than being clear, making sure I'm clear about who the character's on, and going back to that dramatis personae at the start of each book.
Right. There's only a few returning characters in the second book. There's like two bridge burners. Actually, no. There's a bridge burner, who is the fiddler. There's Callum, the assassin, who's also a bridge burner. So there's two. And then there's Crocus and Anselm, who used to be sorry. So those are like the four
Yeah, that
characters
gets
that.
confusing too. There are characters, there are various characters who die and get resurrected with new names.
Yeah. So sorry is like the possessed version of Anselm, but even Anselm still possesses the assassin skills that she learned while possessed
Right.
by the rope. So
Oh,
now
okay.
she's like a badass with a conscience now.
So you're reading Dead House Gates?
Yeah, I'm reading Dead House Gates, and man, does that book start out like super brutal. I know
Yeah.
you kind of went into um, the idea is you had is that this is a grimdark series. I certainly get that kind of tone for sure, just based off of the prologue of this book. Um, but yeah, I would see where you're coming from as far as that. But I'm also unsure of the motivations of the characters, so I can't even really tell
Hmm.
if if the good guys are actually good guys right now,
Yeah.
or if they're just
It's
kind of
hard to it's hard to say. I kind of go back and forth on that. I mean, it seems kind of like a grimdark series to me, but yes, it is less grimdark than something like First Law or Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones. But I mean, like whether it is kind of debatable.
right, right. But yeah, there are some pretty gruesome moments. That is for sure.
Yes, definitely. Lots of people doing terrible things.
Right. I know. Right in the prologue, some noblewoman gets her head sawed off by a chain. Um, which is crazy. It's like, okay, this is really happening in the prologue of this book. Um, but anyway, I know we got off on a tangent there, and we're here to discuss The Burning Bridge by John Flanagan, an Australian writer. Um, I don't have my notes on me at the moment, but I think this book was written like in the mid 2000s, around then. And he is still writing to this day, I believe, books in this series or universe.
Cool.
Um, so to start off, this is more or less a direct sequel to the first book. Will is still not a full ranger. He's still in training. That same goes for Horace, who is also still in training. And at the very beginning of the book, Horace and Will and Gillum are sent on a scouting mission to check out what's going on with a particular kingdom. Also, in the meantime, um, separation from Will turns Holt into like a big old grumpy old man.
Yeah.
And in order to appease his grumpiness, Lady Pauline suggests that he escorts Lady Alice to a mission. Um, their mission ends up intimidating some baron for disrespecting the crown, and Will and Horace learn a few new combat skills while they're out on their scouting mission. I believe the combat skill that's learned is the double knife defense.
Right. That
So,
becomes
which
very
is,
relevant.
yes, it does become very relevant. So, during their foray in this part of the kingdom that they're scouting, they discover a number of different ravaged villages with the villagers completely gone. During their scouting, they find a woman, and she tells them that she is a handmaid to a noble woman. And they get the story that there's war goals in the area. This gives them information telling them, okay, there's something definitely going on. Um, while Will and Horace are practicing, they're accosted by some bandits who are looking to kind of loot while this area is being decimated by the war goals. So hearing that there's a presence here, Gillum goes and reports back, and while he's doing this reporting, the trio continues to scout, and they follow the Wargold party to a bridge that crosses a chasm. One of the things I forgot to mention in the beginning of the book, there was a ruse that was orchestrated by Margareth to give the Araluen army some fake plans that he had to kind of throw them off strategically. One of the things that Gillum had to return was because he needed to make sure that the army knew about this ruse. What happened is Will stayed behind to follow and see what the war goals were doing. He found that they were building a bridge across the chasm, which would spell doom for the Araluen army. So, in his duty as a ranger, he felt that he needed to destroy that. So he and Cassandra, or I would say Evelyn, attempt to destroy this bridge. Evelyn and Will are captured, and Horace escapes, makes his way back, lets everybody know what happened with both Will and Evelyn. Eventually, Gillum figures out that Evelyn is in fact the king's daughter. They thought that the king's daughter had died, but he was put to rest or put at ease by Gillen realizing that Evelyn was actually Cassandra. In the end of the book, which was an extremely surprising ending, I was not expecting this to happen at all the first time I read it. There was a fight against the boss of the enemy army versus Horace, who's like an apprentice knight.
Morgarath, yeah. I thought that part was kind of dumb. Like, no, we must obey these ancient rules, and we cannot not obey them. So we're going to do this. But then there was the part where was it Holt who challenges Morgarath to a duel?
Well,
but he fights him instead.
Well, first, yeah, Morgarath and Holt were going to duel. The king, I think the king or maybe even the baron forbade it because, of course, Holt's not a knight. However, Horace interfered and he challenged Morgarath to a duel.
Right, Horace, yeah.
Yeah, so Horace and him fought. Most of the fight, Horace was getting his ass kicked, pretty much. Until he used a sneaky move where he used the two knife defense, and then he stabbed Morgarath and killed him with the dagger. But yeah, I was not expecting the big bad of the other army to be defeated by Horace.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting
Horace
that.
was going to get killed. I actually didn't think that they would fight the big bad in the second book. I thought they would actually. I thought the story arc was going to be a little bit longer than this, like in a trilogy, perhaps.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar thought. Yeah.
But this is a few books later. I realized that his story arcs are actually in 2-book arcs.
Oh, okay. That's a repeating pattern?
Yeah, you're going to see a repeating pattern where his story arcs are going to be 2 books.
Okay.
So like the next 2 books are going to have like a single story arc.
Okay.
There's a continuation between the books. Like we see at the end of this book, Holt attempts to rescue Will and Evelyn, but we also see that he fails in doing so.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the continuing line between this book and the next. But I almost feel that upon Morgarath being killed, that's kind of like the end of this 2-book story arc.
Okay.
With a minor cliffhanger between the 2 books where we don't know what the fate of Will is going to be.
Yeah, that's certainly a cliffhanger.
Right. I know for sure, and yeah, I really like the 4th book in the series. It's probably my favorite.
Oh, okay.
Of the series. So this next story arc is pretty interesting between the two books.
Okay.
Which has like super high stakes. But yeah, you'll see kind of the next 2 books kind of cement the Rangers' role. As from what we're seeing now, the Rangers' role seems to be kind of heavily, I would say heavily entwined in military strategy.
Yeah.
And scouting and things like that. So that their roles are pretty broad because there's kind of 2 sides to their roles. They're excellent military strategists, but they also serve as law enforcement as well.
Right.
So they go after bandits and crooks and bring them to justice. and they do investigations like detectives and whatnot. So they have a pretty broad range of what they kind of fulfill
Are
in the
there
kingdom.
books that focus on more on the detective aspect?
Yes, for sure.
That's cool. I'm very
There
interested
are
in
other,
that.
yeah, there are other books that focus on apprehending criminals and finding out, like going to town, finding out like what this murder mystery might be. You know, there's definitely books like that.
Cool.
So you'll see that as you progress through this story. I know for sure, like 12 is like it's a mystery book
Sweet.
where they're trying to figure out who's the perpetrator of a particular crime, and they go through the cities, a few towns, and they do some investigations and stuff like that.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Um, yeah, I really like book 12 as well, but that's pretty far along though. Far along for you, because you're only at book 2. These books are like a breeze for me. It's not like a Malazan book where I'm like,
Oh
Jesus, how
yeah.
many times do I got to rewind this shit to figure
Yeah, I
out
know,
what's
right?
going
Yeah,
on?
yeah, definitely.
It's like, geez, like I feel like I'm constantly rewinding the audiobook for Malazan. Um, and it seems like Malazan is definitely more intellectual. It doesn't hold your hand. These books are pretty like easy reading.
Yeah.
Um, you know, clear. The characters have very clear morals.
Hmm.
Um, you know, Will's always trying to do the right thing, and you know, there's no. I guess Alt is a little bit grayer than Will is, as he likes to fuck with people a lot,
Hmm.
and he doesn't take crap from anybody.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Halt is definitely a little bit in the gray area. He will not hesitate in killing somebody if he needs to. Like he's
Yep.
not a Batman. He's not gonna try not to kill people. He's definitely gonna kill people.
True. Yeah, there definitely is
Uh,
killing that happens in this book, even though I was thinking it kind of seems like another example of wholesome fantasy, perhaps like you've mentioned the Bulgariad is.
yeah, I just think wholesome, as in you know the characters are mainly straight arrows.
Hmm.
Like the main characters are straight arrows in their morality. You know, they're always trying to be the hero, stand up for the weak, and defend those who need to be defended.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're not gonna catch them like stealing someone's horse. Um, you know, they're always going to try to pick the rightmost path. They don't try to cut moral corners for the most part. But yeah, that's kind of what I meant by wholesome. They're not like gray area type characters. They're totally like lawful good. Like Horace, Halt. Halt, even though he has a rough personality, he's definitely lawful good. Because he even though he's a punk, he does everything by the book. Um,
That's
but
true.
yeah, the Ranger's Apprentice is burning a bridge. I know it's such a short book and it's a pretty quick story. I think these are very good for entry level people that you know might want to check out fantasy. And when I say entry level, thinking of younger readers. Um, you know, probably in the early teens, maybe. What are you thinking here?
Sorry?
I'm saying, what age level do you think these books are that you read?
Oh, I'd say they're like YA, maybe for like teenagers, or maybe a little younger than that, like preteens or something.
Yeah, it's definitely geared towards younger readers.
I'd
There's
say
not,
maybe age 10 to 13 or something like that.
yeah, nobody's cursing. You're not going to hear curse words in this. Um, there's not going to be gratuitous gore. People do die. The ways people die are described, but they don't go into like the gory details that you might see in an Abercrombie novel.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, people will die in predictable ways, and you won't hear like fart sounds when somebody gets stabbed in the diaphragm or something like that.
Yeah.
They don't get into like the crazy details about, people crapping their pants when they die and pissing themselves and stuff like that. You know, um, that other books might get into details about. Um, but in this one, what did you think of the introduction of Evelyn?
I thought it was interesting, and the twist with her was surprising and interesting.
Yeah, so she ends up being the Prince Duncan's daughter,
Hmm.
who is thought to have died. Um, and what do you think of how this ended?
I like the cliffhanger ending, but yeah, like I said, I wasn't really a big fan of the whole duel thing.
Yeah, that one was a little unexpected. Like I thought Margaz was going to meet his end in the next book. I was not expecting it to happen here. So I was like totally thrown off by that for sure.
Yep.
As far as what do you think of this new group of people that they introduced called the Scandians?
I think that's interesting. I like that there's a new culture and that there's more world building happening, and we're learning more about just that. Just we're learning about different cultures.
Yeah, so these Scandians are kind of like mercenaries who I guess are good at sailing. So it seems like they're pretty much the analog to Viking, as they wear horned helmets, primarily use axes, um, and they're good with ships and stuff. And Scandian, that kind of sounds like it might be a word from the Netherlands or Sweden or something like that. Where Vikings come from in general.
Obviously, the Celticans seem like they're supposed to be like similar to the Celts too.
Yeah, there's various um, cultures do have real life analogs that they draw from. The next one is going to be interesting. I like the next book. The next book's pretty good, and they're going to draw from a particular culture. And I believe the fourth one also draws from a particular culture, and you'll see that as well. But yeah, they have all of these analogs to these different real world cultures that they kind of throw into these books. So he doesn't like really create new cultures. He just kind of uses cultures that already exist and kind of slaps new names on them. New names, new gods that they might worship, and some other things. But as far as like the descriptions go, they have certain analogs to them, like the Scandians, who are
Okay.
very warlike, it seems. Um, so we have this new character, Cassandra. There's a twist with her. She's a particularly brave and well, she does well under pressure. There's a point in which they're trying to burn the bridge and she doesn't panic. She just gets the job done.
Yeah.
Albeit they do get captured, but they are successful in their mission. The bridge
Yes.
does burn.
Yeah.
And also, they do run in a chance meeting with Margareth. Um, while the Scandians are basically pretending they are trying to escape, but they do run into Margareth and they make up like a bullshit story about, oh, we're going to meet up with your Eastern battalions or something like that when they're really like trying to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but yeah, there is a point where at the end of the story where um, Morgareth challenges Holt, and he does tell Holt, "Hey, I've got your apprentice," and this kind of um, this kind of throws Holt into an anger, which doesn't make him think very straight. Because I believe normally, under normal circumstances, Holt would have refused the duel. But since he threw in, hey, I've got Will, he's like, no, I'm going to kill this mofo right here and now to get my
Yeah.
apprentice back.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he actually didn't know if Will was still alive at that point. Like, it was up in the air because Horace did say that he left them there, so Horace didn't even know if they were alive. But yeah, the ending is super abrupt.
It is.
As far as um, the book, what was your favorite section?
Mm, I guess I liked kind of the fights with the Wargles, and I like some of the training that Will got to, like the double knife attack and that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, I thought my favorite parts of the book were Will's interaction with Gillen and getting to know Gillen as a character because his character got developed far more in this book. We got to learn about his background, and apparently Gillen had trained with one of the most famous sword masters in Erluin, so he happens to be like very damn good at swordplay.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Um, so he teaches, and he's one of the few rangers that's allowed to carry a sword. When we get to see why that is, it's because his father is a knight, and he had been training Gillen at a very young age. So they happened to allow him to continue his training with the sword master, despite that not being one of the skills that the rangers train in.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Right. So yeah, I thought Gillen was an interesting character. He definitely has a different accent from the other characters. They all have different variations of like an English accent.
Yeah.
Like Holt is like bordering on like um both Gillen. I think Gillen sounds like almost Scottish, maybe
Yeah, I was thinking
Irish,
that too, actually. Yeah.
and then Holt is like northern UK or something like that. He might even be like a little bit Scottish too.
Yeah.
But one of the things I do like is like, hey, this guy that's reading this audiobook, I can tell who's talking. I'm very happy about that. It's not Scott Brick that we got to deal with here. Yeah, it's got bricking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know this seems to be a little short, but after this we can discuss like other media that we've been reading and watching.
Sure.
But I thought this was a solid second entry. I think upon my second reading of this, I just gave it a 3. It seems to be, average. It's not amazing. It's not horrible. I think it's a great for younger readers. But what did you think?
Yeah, I have similar thoughts. I gave it 3 stars too. I think it's a decent book, and yeah, I'm definitely willing to continue the series. And it's no, like you said, decent, not amazing, but not bad, worth reading.
Right, right. Um, so, uh, yeah, I would recommend it. It's the thing that makes it easy to recommend is that it's not a long book. These books are not long.
Yes.
They're very easy to read. You can. I basically finished each of these like rereads within a day because the books are that short. I know
Yeah, they
as
are.
the books continue, they get a little bit longer. Um, I think the Royal Ranger Book 12 is like 12-hour audiobook, but 7 if you speed it up like I do.
Oh, okay.
Um, but yeah, they get a little bit longer as they progress. But also the writing gets a bit better as well. Because
Okay.
I believe like the first book is his debut book.
Oh, okay.
So usually writers only get better as they mature.
It depends on the
Some
writer.
peak, yeah, some of
Yeah.
them do peak. I think who's an example of someone who peaks, like maybe Stephen King.
Yeah, yeah, that's an example I was thinking of. And then there are some like some major authors who get a lot of their books ghostwritten now, like James Patterson or someone like that.
Oh, he gets his books ghostwritten
A lot of them now, yeah.
or written by somebody else.
Yeah. Or
Oh
they're
wow,
like
that's
mostly written by someone else, like they're written with a co-author, but really the co-author does most of the work.
right. So he just builds the world, and the co-author writes all the details in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that's happened with a few Orson Scott Card books as well, and I believe also if I'm not mistaken, Sanderson has done that as well.
Yeah.
Because I think there are some the Star whatever series, the sci-fi series.
Yeah, yeah.
A few of his books are co-written. A few of
They're
those.
what? Oh,
A few
okay.
of the books in that series are co-written. So I think some of those books are basically written by another author.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But if you're prolific as him, I guess you can get away with it.
Yeah, yeah. Same with Stephen King, like they're hit or miss, but I don't think he's co-written with other authors. But yeah, a lot of major authors do that often just to get more books in their series.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd give it a solid 3. You gave it a solid 3. We kind of have a consensus going on about this book. It's kind of in the mid-range. It's not amazing, it's not bad, but it's short to the point, and it kind of gets the plot moving. I know we got a couple flaws with the plot, which would include the abrupt ending of Morgaris, who I thought was going to be a longer-lasting villain throughout the series.
Yeah, me too.
But no, he gets killed at the end of this book by Horus. So the next book, there, yeah, of course, you're gonna have a new villain and everything else. But yeah, you'll get the rhythm of these books in their 2 book story arcs. I definitely have. Some of them actually don't seem to have 2 books. Some of them are just one.
Oh,
You will
okay.
see the occasional 1 book story arc, but most of them are 2 book story arcs.
Okay.
All right. So, speaking of media that we've come across, what have you been watching or reading?
Well, I've been reading some Edgar Allan Poe stories and poems, some rereading some of them and reading some that I haven't read before. And yeah, I thought I like his writing. A lot of his, even though obviously the prose is very old fashioned, I like a lot of his stories, and the prose is still like very evocative, and a lot of his scary stories are very effective, I think. And yeah, like one of them, for example, is the Red Mask of Death, which is said by some people to be um, an analogy for the Black Plague, and it's basically about someone like a ghost in a mask who goes around murdering people one by one at a fancy ball.
Mm.
So that was a really interesting one. And yesterday I listened to this audiobook called Sadhana, or The Realization of Life, by this Indian author, and it's about Indian philosophy and culture and theology, basically. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I might actually do make a video or do video series on that one.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Cool, man.
also, other than, oh yeah, I actually I listened to another Agatha Christie short story. It's one of the ones in the Hercule Poirot series that the it's the one with the Murder on the Orient Express and a few other ones. And
Oh,
those ones
Murder
are
on the Orient
always,
Express is one of her. Is one of her books.
yeah, it's one of those in the series, in the Hercule Poirot series, who is
Okay.
a particular detective. And yeah, it's interesting, like any other Agatha Christie book. Not like amazing, but it's interesting to try to figure out who the murderer is. So there, it's a
Hmm.
good murder mystery.
Okay. Cool, man.
Also, I read a little bit more. I've been reading a little bit more westerns, so I listened to this short story called Dust Storm by Max Brand, who is a western author I hadn't read before. Reading
Hmm.
the, I think reading the fourth Dark Tower book, Wizard and Glass, recently made me want to go back to a little bit of western, even though none of it compares to the Dark Tower style of western.
Yeah, it's
And
definitely out there.
yeah,
Out there, but
and
enjoyable.
yeah, definitely, yeah. Oh, I also listened to a hilarious audio book, which was basically a compilation of George Carlin's jokes, and the audiobook was read by him too, so that was pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he basically just like put his material into like audiobook form.
Yeah. It's called Napalm and Silly Putty. I listened to it on YouTube, so you can listen to anyone watching this too can listen to it on there.
Okay, cool.
Um, oh, I made a video recently about this book that book by an anarcho-communist called The Right to Be Greedy, and it was interesting because it's basically the author is basically talking about how capitalist egoism, like that promoted by Ayn Rand and other objectivists, can be used to create a communist society, which seems very counterintuitive. So I thought that was interesting. And even though I disagree with the conclusions, I made a video about that because I thought it was surprising.
Hmm. Yeah, that's definitely
And
odd.
I've also been continuing the different series that I'm reading that are non-fantasy or sci-fi or horror related. So I'm exploring different genres. I'm reading the Jack Reacher series. I've read book 2 recently, which is that's the series with this giant ex-military guy who always is getting caught up in like murder investigations and kidnappings and shit like that. And
the giant ex-military dude played by Tom Cruise.
yeah, in the movies, yeah. The show's way better, partially because the actor who plays him is actually the size he should be, because he's supposed to be like 6'2" and 230 at least, I think.
Yeah. He's about like a little bit taller than me, like an inch taller than me.
Oh, you're that tall?
I'm a 6'1" without shoes on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm 5'11".
I have shoes on. Yeah, if I have shoes on, then I'm probably 6'2"-ish.
Okay. So I've also been continuing the Sigma Force series of books, which I've told you about before. They're kind of like Dan Brown books in that they often seem to be about the intersection of ancient mythology and religion and advanced technology and uncovering ancient dark secrets and some supervillain organization trying to destroy the world and that sort of stuff. So those are pretty interesting too. And then I've also been continuing James Patterson's Alex Cross series with the detective Alex Cross, who's always trying to catch a new serial killer in each book. So that's fairly interesting too. The dialogue is really not good though.
Is it really bad?
Yeah. Really, really cheesy dialogue.
Ghostwriter?
No, these are some of the earliest James Patterson novels at the start of his Alex Cross series. So I'm pretty sure he wrote the first ones. Yeah.
So this is kind of. Do you know if he improves his prose with dialogue down to his books?
Not that I know of. That seems to be like a consistent feature of his writing.
Oh, okay. It's not as bad as what's his name though, is it?
Who?
Terry Goodkind.
Oh, yeah, not quite as bad as Terry Goodkind, no.
Yeah, of all my reading, Terry Goodkind has to be the worst at dialogue that I've ever encountered.
Yeah, I would probably agree.
At least in his early books, his later books are okay. No, even the later books, it's just the interaction between Halen and Richard always seems wooden to me.
Yeah, I would say so too, for sure. I love you. You are my love, my love. We are in love, aren't we in love?
Yes, you're my friend, Halen.
You're my friend. Will you be my friend? I like friends.
You're also my friend, Richard.
Yes.
Like, imagine if I called you by your first name all the time and then kept.
Oh, your audio cut out for a second there for me.
Oh, I was just saying, imagine me calling you by your first name all the time and then telling you constantly that you are my friend.
Yeah. That's like a child thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how like kids talk.
Yeah.
So I guess it's not as bad as Goodkind, and then it's not horrible.
Yeah. So that's about all I've read recently that's interesting or worth mentioning.
Okay. As far as reading goes, I've been getting through the Fifth Sorceress. My opinion, the book is better than the audiobook that I've already read. The book is actually not bad.
That was the abridged one that you listened to, the audio?
Yeah, the abridged audiobook is like super mundane. This is better because they cut out all the wacky and gruesome things from the actual book. Like
there's a lot of wacky and gruesome stuff. I can see how that would change. I can see how that would change the book a lot.
Yeah, like I would say that the villains seem a bit more cartoonish in the unabridged version. Um, because I just got to this part where one of the witches meets the hunchback, and that part didn't even happen in the abridged book.
Hmm.
Um, so we don't even know how their relationship developed. There's like so many things they cut out. Like remember, the abridged audiobook is not even 5 hours long.
Oh wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
the ebook is at least 600 pages or so, isn't it?
yeah, it's pretty long. It's like I think of probably 80% of the stuff that I read had been cut out. So far that I've read has been cut out of the audiobook. So it's like, man, this is like two totally different books. Like the abridged version is super abridged. Um, but yeah, I am liking what I'm reading so far. I would say, as far as like, I do see a little bit of good kindness in the books, but so far the dialogue seems to be a lot better than Good Kind's dialogue. And I think I like the world building better. I like the magic system better so far. I like the conflict and kind of like the mystery behind how this magic system works so far.
Yeah, I pretty much totally agree with your assessment. I think I'd say I like it basically as much as The Burning Bridge. I'm pretty sure I gave it 3 stars, and I think it's pretty good. Yeah, definitely not as bad as a sort of truth book, and I can see some of the but I can see some of the Terry Goodkind isms too, but they don't like the author doesn't lean into them as much. And yeah, the world building and magic system are more interesting too.
All right, because that whole conversation that he had with, I think Wig is the name of the main mage about
Right.
um, how their magic system works, was completely cut out of the audiobook.
Oh,
So I was
wow.
like totally eating up that chapter. There was like a whole chapter where he goes into demonstrating like how the magic system works. Like, oh wow, this is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and
Why
then
did they cut
you
out
know,
so much in the audiobook?
dude, they cut out a lot. So I'm not too far in the regular book, but they cut out the fight he had, the fight Wig had with that creature that had like acid blood. They cut out
Mm-hmm. Oh.
um, the main character almost falling off the cliff. They cut out the main character like getting discovering that like secret little place where he got the magical started getting magical powers.
Oh wow.
They cut off a lot of stuff. It's kind of
Some of that
ridiculous.
stuff
It's
is
almost
kind of important. Like the secret place, for example, is kind of important for the plot.
yeah. So that's why I'm saying they cut out so much, and I think like they cut out so much that it feels like they almost like rewrote the book in the audiobook.
Okay.
Like I don't even think they recycle like quotes and stuff. It's just like almost rewritten. Um, so like I remember the audiobook. The first major plot point was, oh, Richard's out messing around in some woods throwing some knives, and then Wig shows up to come get him, and then they go back to the palace, and then his parents get murdered. Like it's pretty quick. Like there's a lot of stuff I left out in between A and B, and all that stuff between A and B is totally excised in the audiobook.
Wow.
Yeah, so I am kind of enjoying this fifth sorceress, despite what Daniel Green said about it. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm getting through that, getting through more Wheel of Time. Um, uh, I'm getting through like some later books in the Ranger's Apprentice series. Like between now and then, I think I've read two more books. So there's actually a compilation of even shorter stories. If you, if you know, the stories in the Ranger's Apprentice are already short enough, and then there's a compilation of short stories. So
Oh, cool.
book yeah, book 11 actually covers prequel stories, a couple stories that are concurrent with some of the other books, and then some I would guess I call them prologue or epilogue stories that happen after the previous book before it.
That
And
happened
it's
so in between books 10 and 12.
after book 10 and 12.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh yeah, between 10 and 12, yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay.
And then it's interesting because there's kind of some author notes in the book, and a lot of the short stories were based off of questions that fans had, and
Oh, okay.
he would answer the question with a short story.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I thought that was a cool like little thing that the author did. He took fan questions and turned those into writing exercises, basically. And those
Yeah, that
writing
seems like.
exercises are canon to like the overall story as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So yeah, and there's a huge time skipping between book 11 and 12. If
Oh,
you
okay.
continue to go down in the series, you're going to see that. And
Okay.
12 is like, I actually really like 12. I would say 12 might be my second or third favorite book.
Look, it wouldn't even close.
So yeah, 12 I would do rate pretty highly.
Awesome.
Um, any other books? Just working on Malazan 2, which is like, man, that is one book that doesn't hold your hand at all.
No, none of them
Um,
do.
they're just like, okay, there's all this crazy stuff and all these crazy terms, and we don't even know. Like, they won't explain what these things are until like, 2 or 3 hours later in the book.
Hmm.
Like, or like, what the hell are these soul taken things, and what are these diver things that are
Yeah,
happening? And
there's so
it's
many
like,
fucking different factions and terms to learn.
yeah, and then you have like new races and stuff, and then I have to go. Like usually when they mention new races, I have to go and look at a picture of what they look like, just so I can get a visualization of these characters in my head.
Hmm.
Because they don't even describe to you what some of these races look like. They just say, "Oh, this this Jacquard and this other guy here," and they
Oh
don't even
yeah,
tell
Jagged.
you what they look like.
I can
You
never
kind of gotta guess.
remember. Oh yeah, I think it's the it gets broader too. The world gets larger because I think in the last book I just read, other than the Tist Andy, I learned that there are at least two other different types of teeth or tits or whatever. And
Mm.
I get those confused with the Tulani Mass sometimes because they sound kind of similar. And I
Well,
remember not having it straight in my
Landomass
head,
are
and
just like zombies, basically.
yeah. And
Like,
I remember not having it straight until fairly recently in book 4 that the Tistandi are giants.
well, they're really tall, but they're also like have black skin,
Yeah, I got that from
and
Animander Rake.
uh,
He's still my favorite character.
yeah, he's definitely like I've only two books in the first book, you're like, okay, this guy doesn't really seem bad, but he's definitely kind of the antagonist of the book, but
Hmm.
he's not really the antagonist because he ends up teaming up with the protagonist of the book.
Yeah, It's
Does the
interesting too.
antagonist gets resurrect? Like, is this resurrected tyrant? Um, who happens to be the same race as I think he's the same race as a character in the second,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was like confusing. And I was like, okay, so I guess this race is like really powerful, and people don't mess with these people.
Hmm.
And we do see that this
Wait until you
person of
get
the
to book
same
4.
race. Yeah, we see that this person of the same race is pretty strong in the second book. Because I know in the second book we have this pairing of a Jagat and a I think they're called a Trell.
Oh
And the
yeah, I think so.
Trells are like these. I guess they look like super muscular, like ridiculously muscular barbarian types. But whenever you hear the Trell guy speak, he speaks in such a refined way, a refined and polite way that's like antithetical to what a barbarian would look like or talk like.
Right, yeah, yeah.
And then the Jagat guy, he's kind of like, I guess he's very in this story. He has some huge memory issues, and he's trying to find out about his past. But in doing so, he's like he talks like he's a scholar, but he's also like a badass that kills can kill pretty easily, but he ends up never remembering that he's been in the battle. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in this second book. Like there's a lot of concurrent stories that are happening.
Hmm.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
introductions of new characters, but the stories and new characters that they're introducing, I'm finding pretty interesting. Like,
yeah.
um,
Yeah, there gets to be more and more of that as the books progress, and it goes in all sorts of interesting directions. And I still feel like there's a hell of a lot more to be revealed, and I'm sure there probably is.
right. So it's weird because a lot of times when I'm reading these books, I almost feel like really overwhelmed by like the world building having a lack of exposition. So when you're in this world, there are things that are happening that seem to lack an explanation that makes the things that are happening make sense at the time that you're reading them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That happens a lot.
Especially in like this happened to me in the first book for sure. It took me like a second read through to like really like dig into it, and it's definitely happening to me with this book. I don't think I'll need to do a read through before I move on to the third book again, like I did this time. The only reason I reread the first book is because I had read 90% of the book and just had had not finished the book, and I probably spent like over a year and a half before returning back to it.
Oh
And I
wow.
know if I
Okay.
tried to
Yeah.
return back to it, I would just like would not know what the fuck was
Yeah,
going
yeah,
on
you'd probably
at
be
all.
totally lost. I bet I would too. Yeah.
So
And
I just
there's
ended up going
like
back.
one of the aspects of this series that I like is that even though like basically in spite of the fact that there is so much complex and confusing shit going on, just the fact that just the quantity of all that stuff that's going on means that like when I've done my spoiler free review videos on the books so far, I figured out with the last one I don't even need to go and go back and look at a plot summary because just the bare minimum of what I can barely remember. Just there's so much content in the book that just that can take up like a 20 or 30-minute video of just me explaining the glossing over just the bare minimum of what happens in the book.
Yeah, so as I'm reading through this book, luckily there is a Malazan wiki that does chapter summaries. So I'll go ahead and read the chapter and then I'll just go through the summary. just to kind of reinforce and because the nice thing about these chapter summaries is that they're not filled with spoilers. They just
Oh,
kind
okay.
of retell you what happened in the book that you just read or in the chapter
Oh,
that you
okay.
just read.
I should maybe start
So
doing that for the future books.
yeah, so I was afraid that they're going to be spoilers, but no, they just kind of reiterate like the main plot points that happen and kind of if there are some subtle things that are happening that you just don't get, the the summary just kind of puts those in the focus and how they're pertain to the chapter. So yeah, that's how I've been getting through the second book because there's just some events that just seem out of nowhere and are totally unexplained. Like I know there's a chapter in the second book when we have the two, the Jagat and the Trell. And there's just like a string of events that happen. I was just like, what the hell is going on with these characters? Because there's a point where they're fighting like six wolves that are like some shapeshifter thing, and then
Oh
after
yeah.
that, some shapeshifter that's a bear man turns into a regular man and starts talking to them. And then right after that, they meet some weird dude who's like some type of scholar, and he takes them to some place. So I was like, okay, what the fuck is going on in this chapter? And I was like, yeah, I guess that's what exactly what happened in the chapter. But they kind of filled in some blanks because, like sometimes I'll be like, what the hell? Like, what's hell is going on? I know they're traveling through some weird magical desert, but Jesus, it's almost like the way that it's paced and relayed almost seems surrealist. So
Oh
I was
yeah,
like,
for sure.
yeah. So I was like, okay, is this like a real thing that's happening? Are they imagining things? Because I know the Trell gets into his own thoughts, and then when he gets into his thoughts, he gets like transported to a conversation he had with some people called the Nameless Ones, and he's like holding back a secret from his friend and some other thing. I was like, okay, I need to like happen and see what the hell's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, as far as reading, that's kind of what I've been checking out. Other media, I have been heavily invested in a couple different anime shows. One of which I think you would absolutely hate because it has like some of those cheesy tropes that you don't that do not sit well with you. Um, like I think you hated the over exaggerated emotions that were in Attack on Titan.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Um, yeah, that's kind of present in this show I've been watching called Demon Slayer.
Oh, I've heard of that
Um,
one. I haven't seen it though.
yeah, I think you wouldn't like it because it has those over exaggerated emotion things. But it
Okay.
is a horror comedy anime. There are comedic elements. A lot of the over exaggerated emotions do tie into like comedic stuff, but there are like some serious moments where you see like, oh, there's a serious moment. The character is crying, but they have like a ridiculous amount of tears coming out of their eyes. Like that's the thing that you don't like,
Oh yeah.
right?
Like in the cartoonish like fountains of tears coming out.
Yeah, there are points where they're doing that in a comedic fashion, but there's also points where there's it's supposed to be a serious moment and they're doing that. That's just kind of like a trope that they do in anime, like
Yeah, yeah.
they kind of ramp up the emotions to a ridiculous degree. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've been watching this Demon Slayer, and man, um, I would call it it's a horror anime. So basically, the demons in this world are very much like vampires. I would call
Okay.
it like a Japanese vampires, but man, it's a brutal freaking show. Like, main characters get killed off right and left, and um, I'm totally invested. There's a lot of it's horror, so there's a lot of like nasty looking demons, blood galore. You know, everything you can think of about like a horror show. And when I say horror, I mean more like
Monster
yeah,
slaying.
yeah, like horror. Like there's slasher horror because there's gonna be these are demons they're dealing with. So the demons of this world, they require human blood to survive. So the demon slayers like investigate gruesome deaths because most times you're going to be tied to some type of demon activity. So these demons eat people. Their murder scenes are just a complete bloody mess. Um, and these demons are just like completely um, I would say devoid of any moral. They kind of remind me of the Forsaken. Like they as a group have a loose like the way that they act as a group is very similar to how the Forsaken act as a group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're very out for themselves, but they have to kind of accomplish a goal from the head guy. But they have a very strict hierarchy.
Okay.
Whereas there are certain ones that are ranked higher. Because in Wheel of Time, there's basically Moradin, like the Nameless, and then everybody below them has to pretty much um, they're pretty much fighting for rank.
Yeah.
In this, there's a very strict hierarchy where each of them are actually ranked. You have like rank one, two, three, and whatnot. But yeah, Demon Slayer. It takes place, I guess, if you're gonna give it like an analog time in, I guess, the mid 1800s. So you got like samurai swords and guns and technology from around that era. Trains and stuff. It's not steampunk. It's
I was gonna ask
it's
that.
steampunk. It's definitely from a certain era in Japan where there were still samurai around, but also there's technology like trains and things like that. Like I don't think there's no cars yet. I could be wrong. There might be cars. Yeah, I think they're just starting to have cars. So maybe it's a little bit later. It might be the early 1900s. Um,
Okay.
but there's still people. The demon slayers are really the only ones who carry samurai swords.
Okay.
But you have to use a special sword to kill a demon. Like that is the only way you can kill one.
Oh,
It's
okay.
only with these
Special how?
special.
Like, is it made of a certain material or what?
Well, the actual season 3 that I'm watching is about how these swords are special, and I'm not far along in the season to know like what makes these special yet. But I'm sure the season is what's going to explain why these swords are special. Because the setting of the season takes place in the village where these swords are made. But yeah, it's an interesting series that I'm enjoying. Another one I'm watching is called Jujutsu Kaisen,
I've never heard of
which is
that one.
yeah, it's another popular one, um, which is about more occult stuff as well. This one is about Japanese students who train in sorcery, and this is modern day Japan. So these kids go to a special school and they train to defeat curses, and these curses are manifested and personified. So I'm saying it's a curse, but the curse is actually some type of monster or super powerful being.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of like Ghostbusters 2, where these negative emotions coalesce into some type of being that kind of wreaks havoc.
That's interesting.
And
That's kind of like that's kind of an old-fashioned idea about about demons and things like that in some ways, that demons are like manifestations of negative energy and that sort of thing.
right, so it's kind of similar to in that respect that these do manifest into some type of being, and these curses end up being extremely powerful and similar to Demon Slayer. Like these curses will go out and murder people and create like gruesome like scenes, and these people who are trained in defeating these curses have to figure out what's going on and then fight these curses head on. But yeah, it's an interesting show. I'm just getting into it. There's another reason I'm getting into these shows as well is just to kind of practice and immerse myself in the Japanese language.
Right.
Um, and I am seeing a huge increase in comprehension
Sweet.
watching this. I'm probably able to like understand 20% of what they say,
What
as
percentage?
opposed I don't put like 20 to 30%.
Okay.
And it used to be like maybe 1% like a year ago. So I'm chugging along with my studies in this regard. But yeah, anime is kind of what I've been using to further my knowledge in Japanese. I know the way that people speak in anime is like totally different from how people speak in real life. Um,
Oh, is it?
and I have, yeah, when people speak normally, like in real life, I have a way easier time of understanding them.
Oh, okay.
Um, because people speak differently. Like, when you watch a drama, people don't fucking talk like that in real
Yeah, yeah.
life.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, it just shows me how the way that people talk in these anime shows is pretty manufactured, and a lot of people that I follow on YouTube say, yeah, people do not talk like the way they do in anime, but you can learn still like some comprehension skills by watching that.
That's good.
But yeah, that's kind of the gist of what I've been checking out. I know right now, um, I was just getting into a show like before we started this. I was checking out American Born Chinese.
Oh, I've seen that that show is on Netflix, but I haven't watched it.
Well, it's on Disney Plus here,
Oh,
so
I must have confused Netflix with Disney Plus. It probably was
yeah,
Disney Plus where I saw it.
yeah. I found out that it was because I was listening to a New York Times podcast, kind of describing the original graphic novel that it was based on. And when they were describing some scene from the graphic novel and they said something about a fart, I was like, okay, I gotta go check out this show to see if it follows through. Because apparently the guy who wrote this graphic novel has a lot of body humor, as they call it.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Yes, your favorite
so,
type of humor.
yeah, I know it's a bit juvenile, but I do like body humor.
I do too.
But yeah, that's kind of what I've been consuming lately. I've been begging up on the anime stuff. And these two current animes that I've been watching, they're newish, so they're not. They're still, making episodes for this. I believe the Demon Slayer. They just finished season 3, and I believe the next season will be the last season.
Oh, okay.
So I'm getting through these shows.
Sweet.
Interesting enough. And I want to check out this Chinese-born American, or American-born Chinese, because I do know it's based off of a graphic novel,
I didn't know that. No.
and there's some elements of the story that have to do with the journey to the West. And
Okay.
eventually, I do probably want to read the Journey to the West in some form or fashion, which is like the origin of a lot of different like shows. Like I know Dragon Ball is loosely has some loose elements based off of the Journey from the West or Journey to the West. So
Okay.
yeah, that's about it. Um, Well, yeah, I guess we can start the wrap up. As far as
Alrighty.
like the next thing, well, it was a little short one. Like these books are pretty small, these Rangers Apprentice books,
Yep.
and trying to think of because we have a couple things that were on the burner, so to
Yep.
speak, that we could cover. Because oh, I forgot to mention, I watched Conspiracy Theory. So, are we gonna not talk about the movie and just talk about like conspiracy theories in general, or?
Yeah, I think so. The Chris had suggested that movie, and then he said he wanted to talk about more conspiracy theories in general, basically, which I'm totally cool with.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with too. Like, because if we don't discuss that movie with Chris, I guess at some time we can just do one that focuses just on that movie.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because I was entertained by it. I totally didn't buy the love story at all.
Oh yeah,
It seems so forced and contrived. There's no way a
and creepy
woman.
too. Like I started looking after you when you were a little girl, and now I'm in love with you.
Yeah, totally creepy.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it was an interesting movie. I had seen it before. It had been a long ass time since I'd seen it.
yeah, me too.
But I think when I remember seeing it, I was actually into conspiracy theories at the time. So I was
Yes,
like totally on board with Mel Gibson's character. Now when I
right.
look at it, it's like, man, he's totally nuts.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
know,
don't know if
right?
he's nuts or if he's autistic or what's going on.
Like when he was rambling about conspiracy theories at the start of the movie, I just the thought popped into my head. Wow, he's just like Alex Jones.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah,
He's like spouting off like all the Alex Jonesisms from the time. I think this was like 1996,
something
and
like
there
that.
were these all many of the theories that he proposed in the very beginning of the film. I was very familiar with those,
Right.
so I was like, oh, I've heard all these for the most part. And I was like, even before they mentioned what was going on with him, I was like, this is going to be about M12 Ultra, isn't it? And yeah, that's what it was about, MK
Oh,
Ultra.
MK Ultra.
Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
figured this was going to be MK Ultra. I think as soon as he started seeing like the visions, I was like, this is going to be about MK Ultra, I
Yeah.
bet. And lo and behold, yes, MK Ultra was discussed.
Yeah. Yeah. Same kind of thing with his sleeper cell sleeper cell assassin, basically.
Yeah, Manchurian Candidate.
Yeah,
I think they even mentioned Manchurian Candidate in the movie.
yeah, exactly.
Um, but yeah, I'm down to talk about that movie specifically in the future. Another thing we have is the next Mad Max movie, Beyond Thunderdome.
Hmm.
That's
And
another one I'd like to talk about.
will it be a little bit before you finish the Fifth Sorceress? I'm gonna reread it too. I haven't reread it yet.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit. I think I'm gonna have to step up my efforts at reading, as I haven't been reading as much as I could. So I just have to figure out what I gotta excise from my extracurricular activities to fit in more reading.
Okay.
So usually it's just gonna mean I'm gonna have to excise some part of my Japanese study to fit more reading in there.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm trying.
So
Usually when I'm on the bus, I'm reading this stuff. So
okay. So for the next one on your channel, what do you want to discuss? Do you want to discuss uh Mad Max 3 or or Logan's Run 2 or
well, I
Ranger's
have to get a
Apprentice 3?
hold of Logan's Run too. I
Hmm?
can definitely. I would like to go back to Mad Max if that's
Okay.
possible.
Sure.
Do really enjoy the third movie, and I think you will too.
Cool. All right. Yeah, we can do that. Sounds good.
And it also features the late Tina Turner.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, she is one of the main antagonists in that movie.
Oh, okay.
So you'll see her basically at her prime in fame.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I think Mad Max 2 or Thunderdome is my favorite Mad Max.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's a bit different than the second one that we watched.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to what I think about it in comparison to the second one and the fourth one.
All right, I'm sure you'll like it. I think you're gonna like it.
Cool.
All right, man. So I think yeah, the next time we meet up, we'll discuss the Mad Max movie. So what's gonna happen on your channel? You can go ahead and slam some plugs or whatever the hell you
Yeah.
want to call it. Smash some plugs.
Yeah. Yeah, people should check out my channel. The I think the last one I did was I just released a clip from one of my podcasts with Chris, who we're going to talk about that conspiracy theory movie with at some point. And it was a clip with us talking about Noam Chomsky's thoughts on ChatGPT and AI and the future of it and whether it'll lead to the Skynet or singularity scenario or neither. And I'm also my next solo video that I'm going to do tomorrow probably is going to be another one in my series on the Lacanian slash Hegelian slash Marxist philosopher Slavoj Žižek's book called Less Than Nothing. And yeah, we're going to, I think it was this week that we were possibly going to talk with Tristram about The Heroes, which is that
Heroes.
second standalone in the Joe Abercrombie's First Law grimdark fantasy series. So we can check with him about doing that too. And
Okay.
if not, if we don't do that on this upcoming Thursday, then maybe either um, yeah, maybe either tomorrow, possibly, you and I could talk about Animal Farm, which we were going to discuss,
Hmm.
or this weekend, we could talk about either that, or maybe Chris can talk with us about conspiracy theories in general.
All right. So this week, Thursday is going to be a bit tough for me.
Oh, okay.
Because on Friday, I'm going to be traveling out of state. I'm gonna go to Colorado for a camping trip.
Oh, okay, cool.
So Thursday, likely, I'm gonna be preparing and packing for the trip. Since that's my only day off the week before the trip, which is happening next weekend. So
Oh, okay, so you'll be out
Thursday,
of town?
yeah, I'll be out of town for that weekend.
Okay.
So and I don't get back until Tuesday.
Oh,
And
okay.
that Tuesday night I will be working.
Oh, okay. Well, if we don't talk tomorrow, then we can talk like a week from today or tomorrow or something if that works then, if that's cool.
All right, yeah, that'll work for me.
Okay.
I'm not gonna be here this weekend. I don't even
Cool.
know if I'll have cell signal this weekend.
I haven't been camping in a long time, but it's always fun.
Yeah, I try to go like at least either once a year or every other year.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I got a lot of camping gear. So, well, we're going out. I'm hoping to see some nice skies with stars and things like that.
Hmm.
I've been told that Western Colorado is really good for that. So, um, looking forward to that.
Sweet.
All right, man. Well, thank you for coming and talking about the Ranger's Apprentice and other various media endeavors that we've watched or read. But yeah, join us next time where we're going to talk about the third Mad Max movie, which will happen sometime in the near future. It's not going to be the far future, but the next time that we come together on my channel, we'll be talking about the Mad Max movie. And the next time that we talk on your channel, we might have Animal Farm, it seems like, coming up next.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, thank you for chatting. And everybody, you have a great night.
All right. Adios until next time, everyone.
All right.